Hey everybody. In the beginning of every stream, I have a new S frequency that I have to notch out. Let's try it. My little RME mixer here. Mixer. There we go. How's that sound? A little bit better. Not perfect, but I'm just using this. Not exactly recording sick vocal tracks. Today's stream is going to be a little bit different. We're just going to be kind of hanging out, which seems to be popular when I, like, a lot of times in my streams, half of it is hanging out anyway when I'm supposed to be looking at software or something. I don't know if it's going to be cloudy. I would love to end this stream by not discovering, but trying to image a really faraway galaxy that doesn't even have like a common name. It's like NG something, 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 or a nebula. But I don't know if we're going to be able to do that with the clouds, and I would also probably have to pause and come back, but that'd be a lot of fun. What I am doing today, so after my last AI video came out, the normal things happened after a video. I didn't really read the YouTube comments. Some people linked me, I got like tagged, and then some people linked me places where, people are talking about it, and of course people have takes, like the pro-AI people, are calling me a buffoon, and the anti-AI people are calling me, saying I'm doing the Lord's work or whatever. And I definitely think I'm somewhere in between those two. I mean, I am a buffoon, but probably not for the reasons you think. But what I did see is a lot of people assuming, like, oh, he said this in a video 3 years ago, and then he said this at this point, and then he said this at this point, so probably. And while I think that's funny and amusing, like I could read what people assume I think all day. It's like the most entertaining thing to read, probably. While it's amusing, it also just makes me feel like kind of an asshole. like I could be better. Like that tells me that I'm being really bad at communication and messaging, especially to my own community, but also to other communities. Speaking of that, some of the most critical questions were on Y Combinator, and then somebody linked me to a thread on Reddit AI Wars, which is like, I had no idea this was a thing. It's like this subreddit that's like 70,000 people deep. And allegedly, the point of this subreddit is to talk about the pro and anti-AI things happening. And apparently it's been kind of commandeered by the pro-AI people, as I've not been up on my Reddit lately. Speaking of. So I said, hey, let's do an AMA. I almost said let's do an MMA, which would have been fun too. Let's do an AMA, but I don't want to do an AMA on Reddit. So let me be transparent about that right in the guide. I feel like my post would have been deleted if I just said this. I haven't done an AMA. I've done AMAs plenty in the past. They've been more or less successful, but I don't want to do them anymore after the API thing. I thought that was a big dick move. For anybody who doesn't know what the API thing is, Reddit just basically closed off their APIs, blocking third-party apps, blocking people who use it for research, even though they say that it's free for research. It's really hard to get access to, and their API fees are really high. And they're doing it right before they were trying to launch an IPO. And they were just trying to, I guess, generate more value in the company. But here's how I feel about those things. Since we are talking a lot about copyright and data and, who it belongs to, when you join a community, when you join a website, a bunch of communities like Reddit, you contribute and you take back. You can search things and find answers to your questions from what you believe are real people who aren't like YouTubers just trying to sell you shit. And then at the same time, you become one of those people and you give your opinion on things. And some people are better at it than others in terms of like the common good. But that's a good handshake. I like that deal. And when they did the API thing, I was like, well, okay, fuck you. I'm not going to give you anything anymore. Like, I'll still Google and I'll still find answers on Reddit, but like, if the API is closed, like I was under the impression that it would be open and everything I said would be free for everybody else to read, but it's not. It's just raising the value of another tech company. So I stopped posting on Reddit mostly and just use it when I'm, looking for an opinion on a telescope or something like that. So we have some questions from Blue Sky. We have a bunch of questions from I did an AMA in that subreddit. A bunch of questions there. Some of them are really, really good. some really good Y Combinator questions, and then, of course, the questions in this chat. And I posted a thing on Threads as well. But Threads, if you link off anywhere, if you like link to a stream, Threads then pushes it down because that'll take you away or threaten to take you away from the Threads website, which fucking Mark Zuckerberg cannot have. But let's first look at the stream chat. Hopefully we don't get more than 100 concurrent viewers. That's usually where I just lose my mind and I can't keep track of things anymore. I'm not a good streamer. That's why I have this side channel and not my main channel. Even though I've been talking like in a run-on sentence, like I just fucking ate an 8-ball of Coke, but I did not. I did have a giant cup of coffee though. Clouds or beads? That's okay. So clouds, these are 2 mutable instruments modules for that thing back there, which I just bought the new Nobula polyphonic module, by the way. It's like the first new module I bought in like a year. But anyway, clouds versus beads. I gotta say beads, I think, but I think just because clouds is so overused. Clouds is a classic. Ed the Soundman's here. Hello, Ed. Most people who did the Lord's work were buffoons. That's true. I'm happy to announce that Ron DeSantis has a prayed for the victims of the Florida school shooting, so we're all safe. No mixed martial arts. All right. Can you safely, Ryan says, can you safely say after a year being on an AI board at a huge university that I'd very much welcome an MMA element to the discussion? Yeah, I would too. And then Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I don't know. I mean, I might start with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and then go to MMA after that because, like, you're more likely to get knocked out in MMA and then you wouldn't be able to participate in the other one. Plus, like, good warm-up, right? Yeah, I haven't really looked at Y Combinator in a while. Is it only questions about AI? No, I'm going to cover those first, but you could ask me, like, virtually almost anything. There's a few things I probably don't want to talk about on here, but as probably things you don't want to hear. I don't want to talk about my poo. That'd be fucking weird. You said in the last video that you never expected to make another album. I was surprised to hear that. Can you expand as to what your thinking was prior to starting the new one? So I've been writing music, and I never stopped writing music ever. There's never been a year in my life where I haven't made, more or less an album worth of music. Probably much more than that behind, but as you get older, you slow down because you keep competing with your former self, and it gets harder, and the entropy of art happens as you grow older. I love being a musician. I love writing music. It's my favorite thing in the world. It's all I think about. It's all I want to do. Everything else is just like a side quest to that, but not, but I mean, I have the luxury of having a career where I can say that, like, I don't know, so however many million individual Spotify listeners per year, a portion of those probably care that if I stop making music, like they'd be like, oh, I don't think they'd like fucking blow their brains out or anything, but they'd be like, oh, that sucks. He's not making music anymore. But I just hate the music industry. I hate the business. And it just seems like every single facet of it has been like corrupted by some bullshit. And so I stopped releasing it. And the AI thing was it wasn't like the sole reason, but it was just the icing on the cake. It was just like, all right, fuck this. But I still have my Patreon community. I still do like videos on synthesizers from every now and then where I don't talk, where I just make music. Things like that. There's sim selections, which I haven't been part of in a while, but moral of the story is that if I could release an album today of music that I made in the last 12 months, with no questions asked, I could compile it, I could mix it, it could be done. But usually when a release comes, traditionally when release time happened, I would have like 10 or 20%. Like I would want to like put in one more track and like tie everything together in a way that sort of summarized the previous year. And this inspired me to do it. So that's cool. Also not being on TuneCore anymore, moving over to Singular, on a much different deal. It's not like a pay per year deal. It's a cut deal that's like, it's just better in a lot of reasons. And also like Symphonic. Symphonic has been extraordinarily I guess just like patient with me. I'm not a fun person to work with when like you're dealing with me in the music sense. Like I'm really I just care a lot about my music because it's like the number one thing to me, even if other people don't, you know. But anyway, do I like the band Igor? I am not that familiar with the band Igor. I've heard of them, I've not heard them. Axe Aaron, I apologize if I'm not keeping up with all of these. Ed the Soundman says, I hadn't realized you did music. When were you going to tell me? I actually didn't realize you were sarcastic at first, and then I forgot that you mastered one of my songs. Have you been exploring distributed peer-to-peer networking solutions, hyped as Web 3.0? Some of these, like Holochain, could address equitable distribution concerns. Yeah, so I mean, I've explored IPFS for a long time for music distribution, or I guess for like a Spotify alternative. There's an entire 45-minute video that I can make that I would probably call Why You'll Never Get a Spotify Alternative that does what you want it to do. There's just, no matter how many different ways that you crank the numbers, it never pans out to be the thing that people dream of, unfortunately. I'll talk about this more, but we might as well, like, especially with all the Reddit things and assumptions and stuff like that. I feel like I'm at like a press meeting where I had just like been accused of rape or something. I'm like, I'll deal with the Reddit accusations in a minute. So like my utopian thoughts on copyright and on intellectual property, I think that intellectual property is kind of a Band-Aid that was, intellectual property started when with, I guess we would say that, if I'm to think back, we had the Catholic Church, and then, Martin Luther was like, hey, I think everybody should be able to read the Bible. And the Catholic Church said, absolutely fucking not, only priests. They are the only ones qualified to interpret the Bible for you. And Martin Luther said, nah, I'm going to distribute the Bible. And then the Catholic Church said, absolutely not. It is against the law. We're going to make it against the law to distribute the Bible because man should not be reading it. It should only be read by the ordained. And the Lutheran, religion stemmed off of that. And then we had, really, you could like take Christianity's origins, right? At least like outside of its like Catholic, from Catholicism forward, you could take like the spread of Christianity's origins and point it directly at like intellectual property or sort of, something similar to that, like saying like this text can't be read by these people. It can only be read by these people. So we need to ban the printing press so nobody else can read it. Fast forward to when music came out, it was like when you deal with like the radio and records, and when the radio was invented, everybody was like, well, now nobody's going to hire musicians anymore, and so they created that would be the FCC, and then came ASCAP and BMI and like all these unions that ended up paying terrestrial royalties and things like that, and mechanical royalties. And then when the internet came out, that's when the Clinton administration put in Digital Millennium Copyright Act. And so over the years, it's just been like bandage after bandage after bandage after bandage. And it gets wonkier every single bandage. And when you think about it as a whole, when you think about like what is intellectual property, it essentially is me playing some notes on a piano and then saying, this is my melody, I invented it, and you can't have it. And if I record it, then we get a completely separate side of that copyright license. And then the government's role in that is to put you in a cage if you don't give me what I asked for that melody. So the whole thing's just kind of like, what the fuck? Like that. This is like, sometimes I'll think about baseball for some reason, just because I grew up in like a baseball family. I'll think about it. I'm like, who invented this shit? It's so fucking crazy. Like, it's like, okay, you got 3 outs, you got 3 bases, and then you got a guy on first and second and third, and then a shortstop in between second and third, but not in between first and second. Yeah, that's illegal. And then you got 4 balls. You could miss 4 times, and if you hit the ball outside of these these areas, then that counts as a strike unless it's the last one. It's like it just keeps going and going and going. Like baseball's so unnecessarily complicated to me. And I guess I feel like copyright law is like that. So in an ideal world, what I would really love is for everybody to pay a tax, and then all, Hassan said something on a stream. He was basically like streaming my that I don't really watch streaming stuff that often, but he was streaming my video on capitalism, and I was like, okay, I got to watch this. I'm going to get torn apart. He actually liked it apparently, but he did say something that I thought was really interesting that I've also said before, where it's like, it'd be really funny if we gave Amazon, if we just let Amazon go fucking rogue and like let them grow and grow and grow and do all this, and then we just said, you know what, you're a government company now. You win, you're done, you're now, and just took them over. Like obviously, there's a lot of reasons that would be bad if that happened, but it's interesting because like I feel like that way with copyright. If you took everything on Netflix, everything that Fox. That the movies that Fox and Warner and all these other networks make, everything on YouTube, everything on Spotify, and if you put it into a giant database that could be decentralized or not centralized, or decentralized or centralized, or a combination of both, as a lot of things are. I believe 2 years ago I did a video where I did a rough calculation. You can't get an exact calculation on this. I did a rough calculation. And it appeared that even people in the highest tax bracket would be paying less than what the average person pays to consume intellectual property. And the people who make intellectual property would be getting more per citizen who consumed it, which like isn't that like mind-blowing, right? Because like you have, it's not that crazy because you have like, obviously you're taking the middleman out and you're just, I think I left something like 10% of the overhead to administration. So that would be a utopia. Like to me, I don't think that I should have to charge people for intellectual property or for my music. And I don't. In the past I've put my own music on torrent sites. Like I truly believe that anybody should be able to listen to whatever they want. But we're just in this place now where you have people who cling on to intellectual property, like Elon Musk. Now all of a sudden he thinks that intellectual property should be abolished. Well, okay, well then release your full self-driving software. But make it open source. Let us all see it. No, you don't want to? Oh, okay. Why? Oh, because it's proprietary and that's how you make fucking money. And you know that every other. So, I mean, I don't, now that there's this like Jack Dorsey as well, now that billionaires think that intellectual property is a bad thing, ever since AI came around, now, like that's not the world that I want to live in. I want to live in one where like artists get paid directly from the people who are consuming their products, just not through this weird intellectual currency that, in my opinion, is sillier than like altcoins, right? Because it's just like an idea. All right, sorry. Catching up on the comments. That was a tangent. Hi, is a resource for making cell phone microphones not able to record available on my Patreon? No, it is not. It is still, so like if I were to, there's some of this stuff. Do I have any of these devices floating around over here? I have some down there. I feel like proof is in the pudding here. Let me show you. So if you could hear so I have like tubs of like, here's one. Here's a little modified speaker. I started out by shooting hypersonic, hypersonic's a proprietary name, ultrasonic sound at smart speakers. And then when it hits the plastic of those smart speakers, if I want to target it, if I wanted to target it at a Google Home device or something like that, I could tune the ultrasonic sound frequencies to the overall resonance of the device itself. So that way, like, an Alexa could still hear you, but a Google Home couldn't.
You're likely thinking about achieving resonance with ultrasonic sound waves within a device or space.
Can you believe this shit?
Fascinating concept.
That's my phone.
Potential applications and ways to approach it. Here's a breakdown of what you might be considering and the types of devices or setups that could achieve.
This is in my back pocket. My asshole is talking right now. When an object or system is still going.
External force. In this case, ultrasonic sound waves at its natural frequency. At this frequency, the system
just gonna go outside and fall down the hill. Where is it? All right. You, sir, are being turned off. Anyway, that was a good one. I should have those running at all times. The ultrasonic sound attacks annoy one of my dogs. So I don't use that up. And that is a concern. You don't want your dogs being miserable all the time, right? So that would be bad. What was I saying though? Yeah. So anyway, the reason I don't have it on my Patreon, is because it's still very device specific. It's still like playing a file on your phone. It still has to be pretty close to the speaker. I do have. Here's another one. Here's one that like I don't actually know if this is gonna. This is one I like chalk together and customize the drivers. It's silent to people. This microphone is just very different than a phone. Hey everybody! How's it going right now? Yay! So I have ones like that as well. But yeah, it just needs more R&D. And I do want to do a video about it in the future, but I'd like to wait until I have that R&D done. All right, anyway, so that's why it's not on the Patreon. I feel like people would just be really frustrated with it. It would be like if I released the source code to a plugin or something. All right. No problem. I'm going to try and keep my questions shorter. I'm sorry for spamming. You're not spamming. I thought it would be interesting to play live shows people wouldn't be able to record. Yeah, definitely. I like that idea. And it's so funny because I've never been like the type of person to, when I was thinking about that, I thought it was kind of ridiculous because it's like, I don't give a fuck if somebody records my show. Like I never cared about that. But then I thought about like how my show might change. I haven't played a live show in like 3 years. And then I thought about it like how my live show might change if I knew that people couldn't record. Especially like in the older days when like most of my income was coming from my music. So I didn't want to like spoil things, right? So I wanted like it to be a treat for my fans to hear a song that was unreleased or something or that was coming out later. So yeah, in that regard, it's like, that is kind of interesting to like just, I guess without having to like take people's phones away, you could just play things and know that for the most part, unless they use some sort of circumvention, that only the audience's ears would hear it in that moment, which I probably would have played different things. So it's nice to have that as a tool, I guess. Yes, Tom, it could be huge for comedians trying to work material. Absolutely, especially when you consider like how comedians and the internet do not mix very well together ideologically. What do I think of Autiker's method of letting live recordings replace LPs? I'm not actually aware of that. I mean, I love Autiker. I love Sean, but I had no idea about that. I'm gonna have to read about it. Hey Ben, Ricardo says, "Hey Ben, did you see the chat between Beato and Fantano? They basically say the musical career is finished in today's panorama." I didn't see it, but I could agree with it. I mean, that's for the most part, I could agree with it. I think you have like your weird fringe situations, but yeah, I could agree with that. Has any artist reached out to me yet? Like high profile artist? Yeah, I mean, well, before this, like my AI music detection, I used that for, voice swap. We worked with Imogen Heap. Then, I mean, yeah, I'm always in constant contact. Like Imogen's a friend of mine. Yeah, no, I have. A lot of people have reached out since this last video. Since the last 2 videos about any sort of AI thing that I'm working on, a lot of people have reached out, which I don't have the bandwidth to deal with all the people reaching out, but I do. It does tell me that what I'm working on is valid, right? It tells me that there's a need for it, whether or not it's something that ends up being ultimately successful. It just tells you how needed a lot of this stuff is. All right. Let's do. Oh wait, I see one AI thing. Okay, how easily can AI model training detect and circumvent, poisonify, and the like? This coincides perfectly with some questions, which I will find on my monitor, which I think I can access right here. Look at that. Okay. I want to go through all these, so I'm going to go through them a little bit quicker than I've been answering these questions. There were quite a few of them that sort of asked that similar question. Okay, so I'm just not going to look for it. I'm just going to, I saw quite a few that did this. One of the questions that I've gotten a lot, I see I got it on Blue Sky here as well. Am I actually able to read all of these? Huh, there was I guess I have to log in to read them. Okay, well, one question was very detailed. It was like 3 different messages. Basically saying that, what do you call it? Glade, glaze, and why can I not remember the name of the tomato plant? Nightshade. The tomato plant. Nightshade. Yeah, I mean, so those things are adversarial noise attacks on image generators. And they were kind of like, they came right towards the end of like the big anti-AI push when everybody was like uploading the fuck AI images and stuff like that. And they didn't promise to do anything. They invented a way to trick AI training, and they did work in the beginning. They did work quite well. And then there was a pretty simple workaround, and then they didn't work anymore. And now people referred to them as like a joke, which I'm not sure that. And so, oh, great. So here's a question here. This is from the Y Combinator thing. Any new defense, in quotes, that claims to use adversarial perturbations to undermine Gen AI training should have to explain why this paper does not apply to their technique. Okay, we can do that. I'm all about papers. I already have this one loaded. I'm not drawn on you. I looked over this paper, and let me see if I could make it bigger for my actually, let me do this. This would actually help me look over things. Okay. See if I can make this bigger to where you could see it. So with this paper, I wrote some notes down here. Okay, so with this paper, if this person, basically the answer, well, he answers for me. The answer is almost unfaringly, this paper applies perfectly to our technique because we are just rehashing the same ideas on new modalities. I believe it's unethical for Gen AI models to train on people's music, but it's also unethical to trick these people into posting their music online with fake defense that won't actually protect them. Okay, so if this, I don't want to highlight my goddamn PDF. It's like Firefox. So if you want to get in the weeds with this particular paper, or I guess like, I don't know, this paper essentially is talking about what adversarial noise does in images, and I can show the audience here why that is not necessarily applicable to music in the same way. And I will demonstrate that in a bit. But if this person wants to, like, I will actually give this person more ammo than they have. Like, I think they're off with this paper because this paper has nothing to do with music. It's just different, and I'll explain why in a second. But I think that, like, a better argument against what I demonstrate in my video, ultimately, to put it in layman's terms, there's a whole lot of things that humans don't think about when they're training AI. And temporal reasoning is probably one of the most prominent ones, because temporal reasoning is just built into our human background thoughts. So like, for example, let me think of a good example. What was the most successful sitcom in 1975? Who knows the answer to that? Not one person in this chat can answer that question. AI could answer that question easily. It's like, it doesn't even need to be connected to the internet. It's already learned the answer to that question. So it already knows. However, does AI know that, like, does a large language model know that that sitcoms are always shorter than feature films? Or not, that's actually a bad way to say it. Do large language models, at least the initial ones that came out that could easily answer that 1975 question, do they know that it takes less time to watch a sitcom than it takes to watch a feature film? Not necessarily. Do they know that, for example, do they know that breakfast always comes before lunch? And that if you eat pancakes and eggs at 2 p.m., after breakfast, then you're eating pancakes for lunch. You're not eating breakfast after lunch, or you're not eating breakfast after breakfast. Like, that's just not the way that we describe things, at least in English. I don't know if any other languages do that. There's a million of these little things that we don't think about, and they're these little rules and conclusions that aren't in any sort of English dictionary, that aren't really even in any sort of text. Like you could scan every book in the world and you may never know that breakfast always comes before lunch unless, Murakami or something wrote it in a book. And they get way, way, way more subtle than that. And so if you don't understand like the chronology, or if you don't understand temporal reasoning, so if AI doesn't understand that and you wanted it to write a murder mystery and then it dealt with breakfast and lunch, it might fuck things up and mess up the entire timeline of the story, which would make it an ineffective AI. So everything that I just told you is how we felt, how researchers in the machine learning space felt was AI's biggest weakness. And it turns out that that it's way better at temporal reasoning than we thought, even though nobody intentionally trained it to be. It just sort of figured this stuff out a lot faster, like incredibly faster. It's probably the most amazing thing about generative AI or about AI right now, is that it figured out temporal reasoning. Like that's like, wow, we can't believe that happened. And with that, so what it is capable of doing at that point is, in my opinion, I could be wrong, it eventually, in time, if not already, it can use temporal reasoning to mimic the path that an artist gets to reach a certain design conclusion, if that makes any sense. Like, it could understand what comes before and after in culture. And so therefore, if it's actually doing that, and it's actually able to, if you're able to say, make me a mid-century painting, and it comes to that conclusion without looking at a bunch of mid-century paintings, if it comes to that conclusion by figuring it out through temporal reasoning and through just trial and error and mutation, then yeah, any sort of adversarial noise attack is going to be utterly useless. Like, there is no defense against that. Who knows how far away that is from happening, but I don't want to get into a discussion where we argue. Well, there were some questions being another good question. I think it's one of the top Reddit ones. Let's see if I could find it. Here it is. Is it one of the top ones? Maybe it's one of the most recent ones. Sorry, there's way more questions than I expected there to be. All right. Ben, glad you're here. You have consistently been one of the most level-headed voices I've heard in this topic. Thank you. I'd like to hear more about your views on copyright and IP law. Well, we already did that. Yeah, I wish these weren't so long. Or I wish I had more time to read some of these. Okay, this one is comparing AI stuff to war. We'll get to that in a second. That one's can be a little wonky. A lot of these questions a lot of questions that were on my video as well, were saying things like, hey, what happens if there's a new architecture? What happens if they create an entire new architecture to do image generation? That then it's just going to be an arms race. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's true, but keep in mind that the architecture of all generative AI models that are at least the ones that you're hearing about, and at least the ones that are marketing, that are that we're paying a subscription to use, they're all based on UNet. That was the last time there was a major architectural foundation, I guess, invention, a major one, right? All of this is just built on that foundation of UNet. And UNet came out when Obama was president. It's not new. It's in AI terms, it's very old. And the reason why we don't have any sort of architectural upgrade, and the reason why we probably won't, is because the Suno and Udio and Midjourney and OpenAI, they don't really have interest in reinventing the wheel. They just want to add as many features as possible so they can get more investors and so they could raise the value of their company and then sell it at a profit. Like, that's what the tech industry is. It's not about AI. It's about buying and selling. It's just about, as I've described in previous videos, it's just a hot potato. And you just don't want to be the one holding it when everything collapses, or, you don't want to be the one holding it when an IPO has been launched 10 years ago and you still haven't made a profit. And so, that's why that's why we don't have another UNet moment. And that's why I don't know anybody working on another. I mean, I'm sure someone is at some university somewhere, but it's going to be one of those things. If we do have a gigantic architecture upgrade, it's not going to be fucking, OpenAI, or it's not going to be any of these large companies who are making it. It's going to be somebody at a university just trying to UNet is literally just trying to identify cells and identify medical testing, medical imagery. That's what it's for. And so it kind of grew on top of that. So anyway, I guess in that case, saying this, asking me if this is going to work against future things when the entire architecture changes, that's kind of asking me is a speed limit going to work in your neighborhood after flying cars? It's probably not. I don't know, but I'm nowhere. I can't even see that bridge, much less cross it. Okay, next up. Okay, so anyway, regarding this, let's do something fun here. Regarding this one, what I will do is I will find an image here, and I will bring it into Photoshop. There we go. Okay, so this is a image that we are just, I saved it off a website. It's probably copyrighted. I'm going to prison. Nice image. This is me and Venus Theory on my birthday. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab a color, and I am going to just maybe use the little pencil tool here, and I'm going to just pretend I'm going to do a rougher, nastier job of what adversarial noise does. I'm going to just draw some like. So I'm going to grab that color, put it in here. And these are things that essentially, like I said in my video, they will confuse the AI. They will make a pattern that one's almost a little too dark. They'll make a pattern that will, I'm trying to make this very subtle so I can actually be fairer in my demonstration. I don't want to do a garbage. I want it to actually show everybody how this works and why music might not be as affected. So to understand what I'm doing, I'm just drawing this in and pretending that it's adversarial noise. These are just little pixels that are wrong, and you can't tell from this distance. You can't tell that I utterly made a bunch of weird shit over here. And if the image were higher resolution, then I would just be doing this at a deeper resolution. So it's just, you want it to be not noticeable to the human, to the human eye in this case. And so in the audio case, when you want it to be not noticeable to the human ear, most of the work is in psychoacoustic. Most of the training work is in psychoacoustics. The rough models definitely sound noticeable, but after days and days of training, you get a nice little psychoacoustic hack. Okay, so this is what an adversarial noise AI would be doing. That is a terrible job that it would never do. But I just want to be fair. I'm gonna take this and put it here and this and here. Just grabbing colors. Okay, so we have adversarial noise on this dog's face that would, whatever, tell this that it's a penis or some shit like that. So that is what Nightshade, in very, 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 very layman's term, that's what Nightshade does, or something like Nightshade. It would see this, it would recognize it as a human face or something, and then it would use positive, then the model may have positive reinforcement that would then identify more dog faces as human faces, and then the model quality would drop. So what every image generation company did is they said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We are going to just do this so we can just slight little blur. And so they still collect the files and they put it through a little algorithm that does this. And now you can't make sense of any of this anymore. The AI can't make sense of any of this. Now we just have a dog. Now we just have two dogs in front of a birthday cake still. And then let's use AI to clean this up. Let's see if we can. Let's use super zoom. Maybe that'll do it. Sharpen. Noise reduction. Remove JPEG artifacts. So now we're actually using AI. It's a little bit, didn't work perfectly, but we could improve it. Adobe is very AI happy. Smaller radius there. Yeah, because this removes the Gaussian blur. All right, and now here we are. Just like new, these things have been like assumed out by another AI model, and everything's great. So that's not good for artists, for visual artists, is it? Because now this can still be trained on without any sort of adversarial noise. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this gigantic full screen app called Photo Sounder. I would use Metasynth, but I'm not on a Mac, and Metasynth would be the best for this because I could do everything in here. So I'm going to open up Photo Sounder, and we're going to select I'm going to select something from Splice, maybe a melodic loop. I wonder if I just have a full loop. I'm just going through my loop libraries here. Let's try this one. See what it sounds like. Okay. Maybe a drum beat would be better, wouldn't it? For this demonstration, at least. Let's drum loops. Showtime groove. Okay. Load. Oh, you can't hear anything, can you? That's annoying. I wonder why. Maybe I can... I think I'm not using my ACO, which means that it's not looping back. Let's see if I can use ACO. Nope. Bummer. Well, that's fucking annoying. I guess I could... Can I loop this back? Yeah, the muting device is turned on. Let me see if there's any way I could loop this back, just because it's like using my normal. There we go. All right, maybe if I go into ADAT1516, hopefully this won't be like too crazy. Play. Yeah, how about that? Cool. So here's our drum beat, right? Okay, now I can draw little adversarial noise things in here. Put one there, some in there. And by the way, what this does is like, it's barely noticeable. There we go. Okay. So let's just draw in areas where it's, you know, kind of obvious. Maybe up here. But a lot of adversarial noise, by the way, happens like outside of the human hearing range, but we're going to cheat here, and we're just going to cheat in the favor of the naysayers and just do it even here. And now I'm just drawing around in here. And now, so if I drew like a giant, if I made this huge, which you wouldn't do, if I just did that, it would sound like this. right? But we're not going to do that. But so now this will sound this will sound identical to the human ear. I still want to do one. I'm going to do one on the first hit here, just so it's like at least noticeable when I bring this into Photoshop. Draw one right here. Something that like isn't noticeable to the human ear, but is noticeable to the eye. So how about like right there in the middle here? All right, that little thing there. All right. Okay. Okay, cool. So now what I'm going to do with this is save it as a 32-bit TIFF, a big old TIFF file, and I will load it into Photoshop. Maybe. Do I remember where I saved it? It's somewhere in a splice folder. Let's go back to Photo Sounder here. Okay, found it. I can drag and drop here. All right, not in the dogs. Come on, man. That's silly. Oh, the sharpening opened a new image. All right, try again. Yep, okay. So now we can see these little adversarial noise, the little whines and stuff like that. It's all here. So let's do the exact same process, maybe even a little bit lighter. Let's just chill with it. And hopefully this works. It would suck if it didn't. It would suck if like this proved absolutely nothing. I'm going to go to blur. Let's just like blur it just enough to get rid of those little blips that I drew in there. All right. Okay. It still looks pretty sharp. And then we can go into our neural filters and we can use AI to sharpen it up again and restore it to its previous sharp glory. Oh, never mind. It's not using color. Regardless, we're going to get it sharp. I mean, that looks pretty much identical to how I imported it, doesn't it? We don't want to reduce noise because of the nature of the spectrum. Okay, that's good. Let's save it. Now, let's open a new file here. Load. All right, there we go. It's not terribly different. And let's hear it. We are still using lossless. There you go. That's why this wouldn't work. Like that is absolutely noticeable. That's like if you generated something on Suno or Udio or whatever and it sounded like it sounds like it's underwater. And again, for me to get rid of anything significant, it would have to be a whole lot more than that. Like realistically, let's do one more example here. Might be a little more. Like realistically, to get rid of those blips, I'm just blurring it by 1 pixel and then resharpening it. Again, we don't want it to use too much radius or noise reduction because that will make it sound absolutely terrible. Okay. Let's open it up again. Let's see if it even changes the way it looks. Load. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, that is a very, very long way to explain why this paper has nothing to do with Poisonify. I cannot speak for Harmony Cloak. I mean, because it's not. I didn't. That was worked on by a different team. It wasn't me. But I think in both cases, if you do the thing, so I mean, there could, who knows? I mean, there's a lot of people smarter than me in this world. I'm sure that somebody's going to, if it actually gets deployed, I'm sure somebody's going to try and figure out a way to avoid it. But ultimately, yeah, like the things that were used for Nightshade to get around Nightshade don't appear to work with audio because they degrade the training data so much. From what you just heard, for example, they degrade the training data so much that it becomes useless. It becomes worse than being encoded for the wrong instruments, doesn't it? Like that's, yeah, pretty cool thing. Maybe maybe the AI STEM thing could handy. Yeah, I mean, one of the issues I think is that. Well, I'm sorry, reading the comments. One of the issues with it, like the Spotify thing that I talked about, like confusing Spotify's genre and instrument recognition algorithms, that's not desirable. I mean, it's funny for me, but like it's not desirable for other people. And then I also think that like, even though I think that most AI STEM separation algorithms are, excuse me, even though I think that most AI STEM separation algorithms are not that great. That is something that's useful for musicians. So, that's a point in the wrong direction. Okay, next question. I feel like that one answers like 50% of the questions. Like that's why I'm not worried about the blur sharpen thing. Because like they haven't come up with a way to detect adversarial noise. Like obviously the whole point of adversarial noise is to trick AI. So it's a little bit more difficult than it sounds. So they've just been boring and using AI to sharpen it. Now, even if that did work with audio, final note with that, even if that did work with audio, that like doubles the more than doubles. I mean, that adds so much power and work for a data center to train something, and it becomes less and less. And the whole point of this, by the way, like just sorry about that. The whole point of this, by the way, is not to defeat AI, to not like put Suno out of business. The whole point of this is to make it more of a pain in the ass for them to train their models on without consent. It makes it more difficult for them to do it than it does for them to just cut artists in on the business model. Like ultimately, I think that'll make it better all around. So that's the whole point. Like the point isn't to like destroy it or to harm AI artists or anything like that. The point is just to do exactly what copy protection does for other forms of IP. Like the reason why people don't pirate every movie that comes out now like they used to is because Netflix has just made it easier. Like it's not worth the work considering the delivery. Same with Steam. Like people used to pirate PC games so much more than they do now, but Steam has made it more or less just kind of, you get apathetic about pirating things. So anyway, that's sort of the whole point. Okay, this is a good question. If your independent Gen AI attempts are successful and one of the big companies comes calling, what reasons, incentives, and avenues will you have against selling out? Data-fueled AI seems very monopoly prone. You've already been a thoughtful creator, so I'm interested in your perspective on this. Big companies have come calling since the video came out and before the video came out, but especially since, in the last couple days, I guess. It's only been like 3 days. Yeah, they have. And the Voice Swap, which is now Topset Labs, has not taken any venture capital funding. We've had like offers on the table. We've had a lot of meetings about it, but it's very simple. Like we will work with a VC who keeps us in control. Like we're not going to give control to another VC, and who understands that paying artists and giving artists dividends out of an equity pool, and all those things are like the core principles of the company, and they are never going to, like, it's just never going to be compromised, no matter how no matter how many different ways you try to propose it. It's every, like, I mean, myself, it was founded by DJ Fresh. He's no longer the CEO, but the people who are involved with Voice Swap and Topset Labs are from, like, the people who are involved and who own the company and who control the company are all similar to me in that the company was made as a pushback against stealing artists' voices, right? Without their consent. Like, that was the whole point. And it was made with the concept of, like, you can actually get a better product if you don't steal, if you work with the artist, like, because you'll have better, it's as simple as data in, data out, right? And so far that's worked out really well. And so, like, people calling this a grift move or a shift move, like we have B2B clients lined up. It's not an issue where, like, I need people's approval. I'm not asking anybody for money. In fact, I would really, really be excited, ideally, like, if we can make it efficient enough, I would really like people to just be able to encode with this type of protection, but without having to pay a cent. That would be amazing. That's, like, the whole point, right? Like, you want to make it as cheap as possible. It's not, yeah. So to answer the question, what reasons, incentives, and avenues do I have against selling out? I mean, I don't think I need to convince anybody that like, I have this moral superiority. The actual company itself is worthless without the people involved. If you gave VoiceSwap or Topset Labs to Microsoft, or, if you gave it to OpenAI or something like that, or whoever, Andreessen Horowitz, if you gave it to one of these, if you just gave the power, then it would become a useless company. Like, so therefore nobody would, I don't even understand why somebody would invest in it if we didn't remain in control of it. So yeah, I mean, the whole purpose of it has a very grassroots sort of thing. So what are your thoughts on pairing devices like Flipper Zero with a mute scramble recording feature? I have no thoughts on it, because it's just, your phone is probably more powerful for something like that. But yeah, like a small speaker like this or something is probably more likely than a Flipper Zero, because does a Flipper Zero even have a speaker? Might have a PC speaker or something. I have one floating around here somewhere. Okay. Reading some more live comments. I have DVDs and Blu-rays. I have a large data center here. I'm building. I'm a data hoarder. It's been like a hobby I've always been a bit of a data hoarder, but it's been like a hobby for the last 2 years. Like, I've been backing up. Like, I have a copy of Wikipedia without the images. Because, dude, if the power goes out, if the internet goes down, I still want to be able to, like, know the behavior of a bird or something, I guess. My mom does have a large data center. I think she has a couple terabyte hard drives. Yeah, data hoarding is becoming increasingly required. Okay. Here is top. Let's see. Man, there's a lot of questions that are just saying, "Who are you?" Which is fine. It's fair. I mean, it's not fair. Like, you have Google. Yeah. Did he answer any of these? No, so I'm going to do it here. Who are you? Who the fuck is Ben Jordan? Not going to lie, I don't know who you are, so I don't really care. Yeah, like, I mean, well, you do, because you commented. I just don't understand comments like that, especially on a site like Reddit, where I could, like, I'm not going to, but I could, like, click this person's activity over the last chapter of their life and shit on it and make fun of the video games they play or the dick cream that they're asking questions about or whatever. Okay, should AI art be copyrighted? I assume you say no. Then can you really copyright anything? There was another really, really long question here that is right in line with that. Obviously, there's a lot of people asking the same thing. It's probably going to be way too long for you to read on stream, but I offer to it anyway. I should play piano music behind this or something, just to keep it going. I watched a bit of one of your videos. Wait, you watched a bit of one of the? You wrote this long of a question and you watched a bit of it? Okay. You'd think you'd watch the whole thing. Okay, I read through this earlier. What this person's doing is effectively explaining how AI takes copyrighted data and then boils it down to something else and then shapes it into a new idea. Yeah, and it's sorry, I actually copied and pasted this to another window here. Yeah, and boils it down, and then you even uses like undiscovered colors. So they listen to my music too. Boils it down to using like undiscovered colors to like how it would be creating, how it would only be using 2.33 bytes of data to like remake undiscovered colors based on what it learned from other things that it, and the whole idea is that it can't be copyrighted or that it's not copyright infringement because of this. Which, like, thank you for the long question. Like, I did read it while I was eating earlier, and I mean, okay, so like, it's a good question, but and it does read more like an argument or a conversation that sort of reaches its own conclusion with like a "what do you think" at the end here, but it's still like a legitimate post, and you clearly put a lot of thought into it. So thank you. So I don't want to read the entire thing out loud, but so what I'm gathering is you're saying that generative AI doesn't constitute copyright infringement due to the way that it interprets data. And I don't think you're wrong with your logic at all. I think you're very right. But what I do think you're wrong with is your interpretation of what copyright is and how copyright damages are rewarded. So like, if you were to answering this person's question, if you were to open up Comfy UI. I'm assuming if you're right, if you know this much about AI, you know what Comfy UI is. Open up Comfy UI and generate a bunch of Mario and Luigi and Animal Crossing characters. And however you do it is up to you. You could type in classic video game characters. You could type in plumbers with mustaches. You could type whatever it is that you want. It does not have to be Mario and Luigi. You don't have to type that in, but the output has to be Mario and Luigi. And guess what? If you type into, I'm assuming within any image generator, if you type in like video game plumber, red and green overalls, mustache, it's gonna give you Mario and Luigi, like just because that's how AI works, right? Like it's going to use the most common thing, unless there's some sort of reason, unless they've messed with the model to not do that, but nobody has. So okay, so you get these images and then you animate them in your own video game. Like let's say you take that in Mario and Luigi and you make your own video game out of these things that you generated by not asking for Mario and Luigi. It just came out of Comfy UI and you liked them, so those are your characters. Or you don't even have to make a video game. Upload them to Redbubble and make shirts out of them, or sell those shirts on eBay, or really anything, posters, whatever. And you'll get sued for copyright infringement by Nintendo and you'll lose, because Nintendo can argue that you're causing them damages by doing that. And so if you use someone else's AI tool or typed in random characters and made something that resembled Nintendo IP, it doesn't matter to a judge or a jury in a copyright infringement case, because that's not how they work. They don't care about how the process you made. If I'm going to rip off a melody from Joe Satriani, right, like, which is Coldplay, ended up getting sued for that, they're not going to be like, did you use FL Studio or Ableton Live? No, they're just going to say, you ripped this off, it confused people, and as a result, Joe Satriani lost $1 million or whatever it is. And if that can be proven in court, then you lose then I would lose a copyright lawsuit. It's as simple as that. I thought I heard coyotes, sorry. And so like in here, you're using my song Undiscovered Colors as an example. And personally, if you trained a model on undiscovered colors and then like generated your own song, let me know. I want to hear it. Like that, I'm thrilled with that. I don't have a problem with that at all. Knock yourself out. If you put it on streaming platforms and if it resembled undiscovered colors, which is a song of mine again, if it resembled undiscovered colors enough to where Spotify, to where it was confusing my listeners and you were getting my royalties, or if it even got mixed up with the Spotify's AI and royalties were, and I was essentially, if undiscovered colors was demonetized and paying you royalties because it thought I was stealing from you, which has happened when somebody sampled my music before, you will get a letter from me. And if you don't respond to that letter, you'll get a lawsuit and you'll fucking lose because that's just how it works. And yeah, I'm somebody who has 20 plus years in sync licensing. Like I've been in plenty of legal situations and suits and battles over copyright things of all different sizes and shapes. And it always comes down to that. You have to prove damages. And so when you say, okay, well, this is only this many bytes out of this many million bytes, and that, like, you're right. You're totally right. And that could be argued ethically, and that we could have a philosophical conversation. We're probably 90% aligned on that. But the truth is that in copyright court, in intellectual property court, in intellectual property law, nobody gives a shit about this. That's just how it is. For me personally, again, like I'm not fighting for copyright lawsuits here at all. Like in the beginning of the stream, you heard my take on how copyright works. I think that, like, I don't know. Recently, last year, right, a federal judge, I think it was a federal judge, ruled that AI cannot be copyrighted. And I think that ruling is going to set a precedent on future rulings for both sides of this argument. I think it has pros and cons for both sides. I don't think it's necessarily a loss for artists, and I don't think it's necessarily a gain for AI enthusiasts who think that artists are being whiny little bitches. So like we don't really need to talk about law after this question, but in regards to like me meeting with senators and staffers and me trying to lobby Congress unsuccessfully, but also there's been things that have been penned, but nothing's actually gone to the floor. My whole thing is we should not be expanding copyright. I don't think that like it should be, I don't think that anybody should be sued just for drawing a plumber, because Nintendo thinks that it looks like Mario. Like, I do think that copyright law is already way too fucking crazy, and I think that we should not be expanding it on this precedent. But what I do think is that generative AI companies who are scraping things off of the internet and training models, I do think that it should be a law that they're required to keep and submit a ledger of everything that they trained on, just because there might be a future situation where that is required for royalties or for whatever it is, whether it's royalties, whether it's to figure out what was used, whether it's for research. Like, there should be a ledger of every single thing in those models, but most of these companies don't keep a ledger, and the fact that they don't will tell you that at the very least, they know that it's ethically problematic, and at the very most, they know that it's because they are liable for copyright infringement. So, like, yeah, that's all I wanted out of Senate was like just keep the data, just make everybody keep a ledger of everything that's being trained. Anyway, next comment here. Yeah, I feel like this already sort of covered what I was talking about. Like, I think that, like, yeah, I mean, I'm not that interested in the lawsuits, and I'm not, other than the ledger thing, I'm not really, I feel like most AI artists would like a ledger too. Like, they would want to know what was in the model that they're using to generate their art, wouldn't they? Like, why wouldn't you? For the very least, just because it's like fascinating stuff. Copying a comment I made on your video yesterday. Any reason why you played 5.5 seconds of actual encoded audio in this lengthy video about encoding audio to mess with AI training? No. Suno's extend feature needs 6 seconds to extend, so I duplicated the first beat. And wouldn't you know it, Suno extended your Poisonify audio sample you played and got abstract airport music from perfectly fine. The music continued exactly the same as a non-Poisonify example you showed for more than 6 seconds. It's apparently inaudible or undetectable by humans, but only the example you showed of encoded audio apparently doesn't seem to have encoding on it, and any of the examples I can find online of Harmony Cloak show the process is extremely audible. It involves very significant manipulation of the apparently exclusively mono audio into a warped stereofied version with the noise added. Any reason why none of this is discussed or revealed or heard in the video instead of just talking about in general how all of this is super good and not audible to humans? Here's 0 examples. Edit. Here's the Harmony Cloak paper examples for anybody who say this process is undetectable to human ear, doesn't know anything about audio or music. Yeah, I mean, I'm very familiar with the Harmony Cloak. So, like, from the get-go, have you ever just like watched a video that disagreed with you, or read an article that doesn't agree with like where you were when the article began, and you just start looking? Like I tend to do this all the time. Like I'll read someone's blog post or something that'll be like, you know, whatever, pro something I'm against or against something I'm pro. And I immediately start like looking for, they may have gotten that one wrong. And then I like dip my head down that rabbit hole really fast. And then I'm like, ha, got him. And then I sort of feel like that's kind of what's happening here. I'm not really sure what you caught me on here. I guess you ripped music from the YouTube video and then put it into Suno yourself and got the same result that I did, or you didn't get the same result that I did. Yeah. I mean, and then on Harmony Cloak, some of the things have, some of them are noisy examples. Like I mentioned earlier in the stream, what takes so long in the training is getting rid of those noises. Like that's really, or not training, encoding. What takes so long in the encoding of Harmony Cloak, or especially in Poisonify, the first couple, like, I mean, I could play you some, maybe I have some in a folder here. I don't want to share my whole folder screen here, but like, sorry. I think I have some examples of like the noise when it's only had a few epochs. Yeah, I don't even know. Yeah, sorry. I would have had to prepare this, but I have let's see if I have any that are. Yeah, okay, so here's some really bad adversarial noise. Hear it? This is like 100 iterations, so this is like almost instant. This is like what it would be like, you know. Yeah, that's your adversarial noise. That would be like, I guess if I were to hire an ML developer to actually like make my code efficient, which I am doing, that would be like the real-time Twitch version or something. But doing it, yeah, like what I'm doing with my music, which is already sent off, like it's already up, some of my discography, you will not be able to tell. Like I am 100% certain. You can't even tell from looking at the spectrogram. Like you can't even notice the difference. When I have done, I wonder if I have a delta here that I could show you. A delta is when you subtract. So for example, if I poisonified a song and looked at that spectrogram like we did back here, a delta is when you subtract one from the other, and you could see only the noise left over. I don't think I have it here, unfortunately. But yeah, like I've been looking at the deltas too, and when it gets, yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, Poisonify Lo-Fi would be good. Okay, so will I launch Poisonify for free even? So like my thing with voice swap, that has been annoying the hell out of them since the beginning of the company, is I want AI to be localized. Like what really excites me, because I'm a fan of AI. I'm just not a fan of like the direction it's going. But yeah, I'm very excited about localized AI. I'm very excited about having software here that I could like train on a bunch of noises outside and generate new noises that I've never heard before. Things like that are like really exciting. Things like being able to record my voice in a bunch of different ways, and then without having to pay a subscription to anyone, having it generate a new voice or having it generate a version of my voice. I mean, that's essentially what we did with Imogen Heap. She sent me hours of her voice in weird ways, and then sang through it, sang through her own voice, and like made some fucking incredible music with it. That's experiment. I mean, that's art. That's just like a new tool to experiment with. I'm totally down with that. That's great. And I think that everybody should, like my big pitch forever is like there should be some sort of, it would be so nice if there was like some sort of gigantic, easy to use type of Docker that would just run all of the open source generative AI models, the voice cloning, the image training, the music generation, and make them all extremely accessible, because there's like 75, 80 million people in America alone who have access to a GPU. So like all of this stuff is like really exciting to me. My phone can do it. My phone can do vocal training and inference. It's like a Samsung feature. But with Poisonify, the problem is if you do that, then a company like Suno or whoever could just test against it. They could just literally, they could lease an entire data center and just capture deltas, like I was talking about earlier. They could just capture that, and then actually make an AI that could find that. What's more important to me is having it on a remote server that is basically not something that you could just send files to. It would be something that was integrated with the distribution process. So either with Symphonic or with BMAT. BMAT is, if you're not familiar with BMAT, I can show you. Well, I should probably just, I think I answered all these already. Not VMAT. Yeah, BMAT is like, well, I guess they are sort of the operating system for the music industry. So like if you uploaded Pink Floyd to Spotify and said it was yours, BMAT would be the database to say, no, you're not Pink Floyd. You're just pirating Pink Floyd's music and trying to make money off of it. So VoiceSwap and Topset Labs were the only AI company that can be BMAT certified right now. So that's a huge shoe-in. So that means that, with enough testing, Poisonify could as well. So it could just be integrated in their API. Dinner time. Catch you next time, Ben. Thanks, Ed. It was fun hanging. Do you think there should be an open source music generator trained on public domain music? Yeah, sure. I'm down. I'm totally down. Stability Audio. Stability Audio 2.0. That's trained on licensed music, and it's pretty good. It's not bad. Aquatic Borealis says, I used to work for a company that had a proprietary antivirus in the cloud. Malware writers could not get a hold of it and could not test against it. Sweet. Yeah, that's honestly, that sucked, because I hate not being able to just like give it away. But another thing that happened with the AI music detector is 2 different companies, like literally after that video, 2 different companies had a press release saying that they describing the fucking same thing that I described in the video a week prior, saying that it's theirs and that they were going to patent it, which neither did. But I ended up patenting it, but like yeah, I mean, the whole point was then to gatekeep it behind a paywall so nobody could use it. And it was like, well, you know, it kind of sucks. Would an AI company be able to send you a file, compare results with the original, and reverse engineer my process? No, I wouldn't do that. If somebody just sent me a bunch of files and said, poisonify this, I would say no. Mostly just because it takes an incredible amount of time to do it right now. So like right off the bat, that's off, that's off the table. But no, I don't think it would be a sort of pingback. I think it would be, if you wanted to do that, you would have to release music. Just through my vision now, at least, you would have to release music, and then you would have to then scrape it off of Spotify or like Quobuzz or whatever. What is to prevent anyone from generating lots of Poisonify examples to use for training a detector model? I mean, they're welcome to. They'll have to release, well, it's sort of a numbers game. It sort of reminds me of like, if anybody remembers, they used to have like they used to be proposing an email tax to prevent spam, where it was like a fraction of a cent, like it'd be like 0.1 cents per email that you send. And so like every person would have like, at most $1 or $2 to spend per year as an email tax. But like spam people, like people who make a living off of spamming your email would cost them millions or even billions of dollars based on just the amount of automated emails they send. So if you were to do enough to actually learn something from it, I mean, again, it's like one of those things where it's like it just makes more sense at that point for generative AI companies to work with artists, for them to just like, it would make so much more sense for them to say, Ben, we really want to train something on your music. Here's some money, or here, we're going to pay you royalties, or, whatever it is, we're going to pay you dividends on something. It would be cheaper for them to do that than it would be for them to release a bunch of things to try to attempt to figure out how to detect something like Poisonify. And then on the other side of that, then like, what's to stop me from just doing more research? And, at that point, you're in an arms race, and arms races are really expensive. Like, neither side wants to be in that. But this is just the first time that we had it. Lava lamps are good for random number security. Yeah. On Arduinos, whenever I wanted to make a random number for like melody generation or something, I would always just sort of have a little wire coming out, and then it would be like a multiple, it just somewhere in there it would use a random number just from like the voltage that it was getting from the room. Did you see the AI scraper problem and Xe's POW solution to it? That's now all over, including. No, I haven't. Okay, let me see if I have any. I don't want to get accused for avoiding questions. All right, I already did this one. There's a lot of people who don't know who I am, which is fine, but big fan. It's like either like, hey, big fan, or I don't know who you are. It's so Reddit, man. Reddit's just like autism central, isn't it? Big fan. I enjoyed your music on AI. Though I didn't agree with them 100%. I think you're overall been one of the few voices in the space. I appreciate that. I will say, though, I don't believe in poisoning. A lot of time it amounts to giving exactly what I want, to giving me exactly what I want, challenging examples to test on. I understand that attacking caption models and self-supervised models can damage the result, but there's already a messy and badly captioned data in the mix. I bet most people are making is that there's more clean data than the impure data, and poisoning doesn't really move the needle. In the best case scenario, it becomes an arm race of adversarial models and corrector models, which is good news for me as a dev. That means I rake in the big bucks. You're welcome. But that might not be the best thing for society. So like, I guess like if I'm to, might as well just go full screen here. I think if I'm to like, this will also answer a lot of the questions. There was another question that I had in here that's similar. Well, let me just search human. Yeah, like note some of these. Okay, this is a good question. Let me go back to this real quick. I wanted to talk to you after watching the most recent video. What is your general opinion about the way AI is trained? Would you be fine with it if it was completely with consent, or if the problem, or is the problem the value of human effort and development? So yeah, I mean, that's like what a lot of these questions come down to, and I think that's an excellent question. And yeah, so like I don't have any sort of problem whatsoever with AI training data with consent, but maybe I do. Maybe I do. Like, so I guess first of all, my opinion doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. I'm very aware of that. I'm happy to share it, but I don't believe that like my feelings should dictate laws or behaviors or anything like that. I personally break down AI at its core by its usefulness and addition to humanity. So like, for example, is it useful for me to only get a notification from my security system when a stranger steps on my property, rather than me getting a notification every single time that I walk past a camera myself, or every time a leaf falls off of a tree and the motion's detected? Yes, AI is very helpful in that way, and how it's trained doesn't concern me either. Like, I don't remember telling my security system to memorize my face or to take a bunch of pictures of it and train a model to memorize it, but it's useful to me and I'm not being harmed by it. Sort of what I talked about earlier, there is no damage to that happening. Now, if I were a professional fashion model and Amazon or Google was using that security camera footage of me to then resell a service for someone who could then generate me wearing designer clothes, things start getting kind of ethically problematic there, because it's reducing the amount of money that, me, your fellow human being, makes. And the majority of the time that reduction is happening, I guess the majority of the time that I'm calling it a reduction, right? Because it's like reducing a human's income. The majority of the time that that's happening, it's being redistributed to the owners and investors of much larger organizations who are stacking up money made from the convenience of not having to pay a human. So in that example, which I quite like because I get to be a professional fashion model, but in this twisted alternate reality where I'm a professional model, it would be pretty difficult to argue that AI has resulted in a fashion brand being able to sell more clothing from those images, but it would be a lot easier to argue that AI has reduced the value of human fashion models with increased increased I guess, wealth disparity. It's made, in that case, it would have made the top richer while making those on the bottom poorer. And this would qualify, to me anyway, as a reductive use or a subtractive use of AI for Team Human, right? And so when we think about third parties, then it gets even more debatable. Like, you could argue that the economic toll of the AI in that case, we're still on the me being a fashion model thing. I'm going to riff on that for the rest of the stream. But yeah, you could argue that all of that was taking work away from photographers and professional set designers and all the labor that goes into the fashion shoot. And it could even be argued that that could take away the labor from the airport employees and the flight attendants and the Uber drivers, because I would no longer have to travel to a set to be photographed. And I guess you could also argue that that might be a good thing, considering the extra plane seat, and it wouldn't have to be redundantly used to reduce, I guess it could reduce carbon emissions. But anyway, I guess you could go both sides with that. So I guess let me try and make this, since this is answering so many different questions at the same time. I think this is the fallacy that comes when a lot of people think about AI technology, and a fallacy that a lot of pro-AI people have. And I don't really believe that there is a such thing as a pro-AI or an anti-AI. This is a gigantic gray area, and nobody knows what the fuck is what yet. We just have opinions and we're clashing them, and that's why it's so fascinating to me. But I think that the fallacy is that when we think about using technology that saves that saves the set designers and the models and the flight attendants from jobs that they may find laborious, and we think of it that way, we think about it as freeing them, as we're taking away this job that they used to be chained to, and now we're allowing them to do what they want. in this entire transaction that I'm talking about, this metaphorical transaction, we're thinking about that in ideological ways, not in economical ways. And so, like a truck driver probably doesn't love driving trucks across the country all the time. That is, I mean, I guess that would be technically concrete labor, and ideally, the driver would be spending more time raising their children, or writing a novel, or inventing something. But I mean, provided that the driver is still getting paid the same wage, yeah, that's a good idea. But unfortunately, now the truck driver is laid off and can no longer provide for their family if AI takes their job, and they can no longer pay taxes, and they may require public aid. And what AI has done in this example is turned a citizen who is added to the economy into one who subtracts. And I guess, I hate to like pin this on this example truck driver, but that's kind of a net loss for society, isn't it? But I guess like I almost wish I could like draw this out in a little animation, but I don't know. Where are we on this? I'm just answering this like deeply hypothetical, ethical question that like a lot of people have asked, and I think everything I'm saying, I just want you to think about. If we're to go with that AI truck driver, there's a company on top of that AI truck. There's a company that used to hire truck drivers, and now they license an AI that drives a truck. And the company that licensed it to them now effectively controls the destiny of the trucking company, and perhaps even some of the businesses that depend on the trucking company to deliver them their products, right? So with that, in smaller towns especially, citizens depend on the trucking company to deliver food and resources to their cities. And the company that licenses the AI is not part of those industries. It doesn't live in those towns. And so there's very little incentive for them to consider the well-being of the communities when making the decision about how their product makes money. So you see where I'm going with this? It just kind of, I don't know, like, that's what I think about when I think about AI taking even jobs where you don't want to work them. It's not a matter of is AI good or bad. It's a matter of what's happening in the financial dealings behind that, and what's happening with the control behind that. Like allowing Gemini to do something, giving Gemini a coding job or something. I don't think of that as like, oh, this is bad because a robot took a man's job or a woman's job or whatever. I think about that more as like, no, now Google. Now we're relying on Google. We're relying on billionaires to accomplish this task that we used to rely on a single person to do. And it distances the interest from the overall thing getting done. That's what I'm thinking about when I sound like I'm anti-AI. I'm not thinking about the technology itself. I'm 100% not shitting on artists for using AI. Like I think I've yelled at people back. I mean, even like, God, Andrew Wong, he's another YouTuber in this space. He made like musical trading cards, and it turned out that he used AI in it, or his graphic artist that he hired used AI for some of them. And everybody had a big panic attack over it. And I mean, yeah, I was getting some shit because I was defending him. I was like, who gives a shit? Doesn't matter. He didn't train the models. He didn't pay for data centers to whir away and scrape all this shit. He just used it. It's over. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. If you like, shitting on artists is such a dumb way to like to vent your frustration. Like, you can literally look up who's investing in these companies and stop buying anything from any of the other companies that they invest in. Like, you can push back right now, you can bite, but like shitting on an artist or like shaming an artist publicly, it doesn't get us anywhere. It just turns us against each other, when like, the whole thing I'm doing here is to try and unify everybody. Wave Pattern says, I think this is why UBI is starting to become a real talking point. Yeah. I mean, I even remember when Elon Musk was a big UBI fan, Universal Basic Income. Oh, and then fucking Sam Altman. There's a clip of him. This is like peak Sam Altman delusion. Like, before people started doubting his bullshit. God, I think it was on 60 Minutes or something. Or a podcast, I don't know where it was, but he was talking about universal basic compute, where where the government pays him to give you some compute time so you could have AI do things for you. Jesus fucking Christ. Like, I want the DMT that dude smokes. Hey, Patrick, how are you? Caught me right on a Sam Altman thing. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Sam Altman and his AGI thing. Yeah. Patrick Boyle taught me everything I need to know about rap. I love Patrick. But yeah, there's this amazing clip. Let me try and find it. I gotta find it because it's so good. Sam Altman, Universal Basic Compute. It's quite possibly one of the most delusional things. Of course it's on X. Where else would it be? Sorry, I'll load it up in a second here. I'm just gonna play. I don't want to get copywritten, so I'm just gonna play the quote. Okay.
Now that we see some of the ways that AI is developing, I wonder if there's better things to do than the traditional conceptualization of UBI. Like I wonder if the future looks something like more like universal basic compute than universal basic income, and everybody gets like a slice of GPT-7's compute, and they can use it, they can resell it, they can donate it to somebody to use for cancer research. But what you get is not dollars, but this like
productivity
slice. Yeah, you own like part of the productivity.
I mean, imagine like what fucking car accident that dude's been in to have that thought spring up in his head with like the brain damage to not have another thought that followed up saying, shut the fuck, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. I love it. Patrick says, I'm less worried about AI as I feel it will mostly boost productivity a bit like the way 75% people used to wait. Yeah, I mean, I like AI when it boosts productivity. I mean, so like how I personally use AI, I'll write a video script now, and I will have I will fact check it myself, and then I will have AI fact check it. I'll have AI argue with it and create arguments, and usually they're bad arguments. Usually they're not ones that I would take seriously or change anything for. But sometimes it's like, oh, okay, you notice that. That's interesting. Maybe I'll reword that a little bit. Royd Droid Void says, why would any system support humans that now requires fewer humans? That is not human nature. Humans should be concerned if they have lack important skills. If they lack important skills. Yeah, I mean, I'm not totally worried that computers are going to reach singularity in the next year. I think the reason we think that's so close is probably due to like false promises. Because the reality is like if I were to, I mean, because I've done this like with the exact thing that my last video is about. I've programmed a lot of, I've done a lot of coding involved in it. I'm not a coder. I'm not a developer. So of course, I tried to see if Gemini or ChatGPT or any of those things could help me, and every single time they just made me more confused than from where I started. They told me to do a bunch of things, to install a bunch of libraries, and all turned out to be wrong. And then what ended up happening, especially with Gemini, what ended up happening is it would have me do two things that were incompatible with each other and just sort of like kick the football back and forth. And after an hour, I'd literally yell at it. I'd be like, you're literally telling me to do something that like erases the last thing I did. Like, which I guess sort of goes back to what I was talking about in the beginning of the stream with temporal reasoning. It can't really do temporal reasoning. So it just kind of like it could remember me asking a question, but it can't figure out like, oh, he asked me to do this earlier, and this is the problem, and the thing I'm doing is contradicting the thing fundamentally from what he's asking me. This without an example, without like showing you on a screen, this is almost impossible to describe. I need some universal basic compute. That's what's been, Tom says, that's what's been striking to me, how disruptive AI has been, and it barely exists yet. Can't imagine where we're headed. Yeah, I mean, I do feel like we are at sort of an 80-20 rule or 80-20 level with it. Like it's improving much slower. I'm noticing an entropy of improvement. All right, let me. Yeah, oh, that's also with generative AI too. Like that, a lot of times I'll want a. Where were we here? There are so many questions. Yikes. Yeah, I'll be looking for an image somewhere, and I end up just using stock images because, like, generative AI can't really cut it. I've been watching your videos for a while, big fan. That being said, I hope you soft into AI generated music. It's definitely going to be a tool for next generation users to make music, and I'm looking forward to seeing how truly creative people use these tools as they get more sophisticated than early 1980s drum machines, which, though far more sophisticated than those. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't think that like typing in a prompt and getting music on the other side. See, like the way that I look at things musically, like I see music as when I think of communication, I sound like fucking Sam Altman right now. When I think about communication, I think about like communicating with English, and I think about communicating with music. And I feel like English, I can tell you like I went to the store today and bought bread and saw a dog on the way home. And then I can tell you like I was sad at the store in English, but I can't make you feel that I was sad at the store. And so like in between those cracks between the words, it's like quantified into these like words that don't really properly describe the way I feel. In between that, I can play a piano and I can make you feel the way that I felt in the store. But if you take away the English, then I can only make you feel the way that I felt in the store, but then you're applying it to the way you feel about your grandma or something entirely different. You're just like applying it to the thing that it reminds you of. So those two things together probably tell a really complete story, which is probably why so much music has lyrics, except for mine. I just like being abstract. So when somebody says like generative AI especially in terms of like the Suno thing, where you're just typing in things and the music's coming out the other end, I kind of have to call bullshit because like I feel like the reason we like music, I mean, on an evolutionary scale, the reason we like music is because it helps us detect patterns. But the reason we like music these days is because it triggers nostalgia that words can't. And it makes us feel things that words can't do. So it gives it more value. And so if you're just generating, if you're just taking your words to generate music, I mean, that's fine if you like it, but you're not a musician. And like you're not experienced, and it's not gatekeeping musicianship. Like you don't have to be a good instrument player to be a musician. You don't have to know how to use all the DAWs. You just have to feel what it's like to express yourself through music, like through the act of playing it and making it. You have to like go through that abstract transformation of your feelings. I think that, and this is just my interpretation. This isn't like the rule. But so if that's the case, then Suno and Udio is what I kind of already thought it was. It's like a magic trick. You're just kind of pressing a random button. Make music, make music, make music. And you'll get something new, and you'll get something new. Usually funny things is like a fun thing to try on there. Make it sing a country song about having diarrhea, whatever. And then you get bored of that. And that's what most people do. Most people don't actually bridge over to paying a subscription fee. Most people use the free credits and then peace out and go do something else with their time. And that's fine. But how is that different than like, using any streaming platform and just hitting next? Or how is that any different than just being recommended music from a friend? I mean, it's kind of the exact same thing. And so like ultimately with generative AI, with music, in that case, like I just, literally nobody is saying, I've never heard a person in my life say there's not enough music in the world. Like there's more music in the world than you will ever hear. So like, this is not a good job for AI. It's a good fundraising scheme, but it's not a good use. Yeah. Christopher Sisk says, maybe not generating a song with a prompt, but creating or fine-tuning a synth sound with prompts might be something useful. Absolutely. I agree. Please, I beg you, Suno, Udio, Minimax, make some features that allow me to make music in a creative way. Like, like allow me to train my own songs and do crazy things with, other than like the weird rigid rule sets that you have. The podcast Better Offline, hosted by Ed Zitron, is fantastic and will make you hate all these AI tech bros in a whole new way. I don't know if that's possible. My mom said, see you next week, Dark Man. I don't know what that means. Yeah, so I guess like when we think about, if we're talking about AI music generators in that context, like you could pay the same amount of money per month about give or take, and have a membership to like Art Grid or Art List or whatever it's called, or any of the gigantic stock music sites that give you like unlimited use of music that almost always sounds better than anything AI is going to generate. So I mean, even if you're just looking for like sync licensing and you just don't want to pay an artist, if you're that interested in not paying an artist, that would be a good thing to check out. You'll probably like it more. And that actually pays artists. All right, let me look here. What happened to the eyebrow? Boxing happened to the eyebrow. More AI related. Do you think the adversarial audio is reversible by a simple audio? Well, we already showed that earlier in the stream. I like how I was able to answer. I feel like Poisonify will have similar problems to Glaze and Nightshade for art. Already answered it, baby. Hi from Chicago. I miss seeing you live. How is the poisoning method you described in your recent video different from others? It certainly isn't the first time I've heard of anyone doing this. Yeah, I mean, Harmony Cloak's the only other one I know of. And trust me, I know I've looked. I've looked just because to make my own research easier. It's like, has anybody else done this? What do they do? That was sort of where I started. So I don't know if anybody else, unfortunately for me, because it's not about me like inventing something. It's about getting a task done. And it would have been a hell of a lot easier had more people than just the University of Tennessee done it. Also not AI related, but are you using a ring mod in the beginning of BAM TV Presents the Flashbulb Virtuous cassette? I don't know if I can play that without getting hit, but I think I know what they're talking about. It's like a guitar solo through a MIDI guitar thing. Yeah, I think I am. This is a person telling me not to post it here. Ooh, here's a good question. Do you believe that every artist's it fucks with you so much when you're on stream and you're reading a sentence with like a simple grammar error. Do you believe that every artist is supposed to be paid if their art is popular? What a question, huh? No, because I don't think every artist wants to be paid or demands to be paid. I think some artists would rather their art be free than or not even distributed than they want to be rich, right? Like I don't like that money and art are that closely intertwined to begin with. But no, I don't think so. But here's what I do think. I think that if an artist wants to be paid, I think if they desire to be paid and others are making money from their artwork, then I think they deserve to be paid. Like I think that's kind of like a universal thing that we can all agree to, right? It's like if I make something and Disney makes $1 million from it, then like I deserve half of that at least. It's like that's kind of an easy thing. Honestly, sorry, I'm reading the comments here. Honestly, example with editing a spectrogram in Photoshop looks kind of stupid. Yeah, it's very hearable, but you can use all sorts of direct audio manipulation that's unhearable to remove adversarial noise. Okay, show me. Show me one way that adversarial noise is removed from audio, from a spectrogram, that that isn't using some type of blurring and resharpening. You're right here. You can link the paper or whatever it is. Show it to me, because I've looked endlessly. I've searched. I've used AI to try and help me search. There is nothing that can reliably do that. There's been proposals. I've seen proposals. I've seen like unpublished papers where it's like, we could do this, we could do that, and then you'd never hear about it again. 3 years later, you wouldn't hear about it, and that's probably because they tried it and it didn't work. That's not to say it won't work, but I'm just saying when people are saying, that it's stupid of me to demonstrate to people who aren't ML engineers how adversarial noise prevention works in images and music. Well, how would you do it? Stretching algorithms, audio compression. Yeah, show me. I want to see it. Show me how audio compression can get rid of adversarial noise. Please do. Because yeah, like what are we talking about? Like I literally have papers here. Like what are you going to do to get rid of it to where you will have useful training data on the other side? Like, yeah, lots of stuff has been tried. Inverse modified discrete cosine transforms, both in the encoder and the latent space. Fourier subtraction. Yeah, I mean, by all means. And I'm not saying this in a combative way. Like, if you know of a way that this is done, let me know. I want to know. Like, this is something I've researched for a long time. Has anyone tried putting the audio on vinyl and ripping it back? No. No, fortunately not. Although apparently on Reddit, somebody claimed to have removed I don't know, like scraped my video and tried to put it in Suno, and it didn't work the way that it worked in my video or something like that, but I don't know. Sorry, I'm reading through these still. See if there's any that I missed. I respect what you're trying to do here, but I think you'll quickly find this sub is filled with assholes. Yeah, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I kind of wanted to be in the fire. One of the things that I like about voice swap AI concept is the idea that artists can say no to having their AI generated voice used on specific projects if they object to that content. That is something that we have. It's pretty rad. Udio and Suno obviously don't have these controls, and hearing a voice modeled on Black American female singing lyrics that could have been written by a racist incel was not endeared me to those platforms. Yep. But there's a broader question on cultural appropriation, which I know is a decisive, I think he meant divisive topic in itself, and maybe not even the correct term. My son is a white British musician who has incorporated elements of Afrobeat in his music. He did that by listening to the music of Fela Kuti, learning from Tony Allen's drumming, and even studying the genre with a member of Egypt 80. He understands and respects music, its history, and its place in West African culture. It would be hard not to after his personal journey. Users of Suno and Udio can prompt these platforms to generate music with the tag Afrobeat and not even realize that that what they have generated isn't replicating the sounds. I see what it's saying, presumably because okay, so I know that some will bristle at these concerns, but aren't we accelerating towards the erasure of important elements of music and culture because it's not being curated with the right care? I mean, I feel like the internet kind of already does that, right? It's like, when I was growing up, when I was a teenager, um, if I wanted to learn Middle Eastern music, I'd have to like literally go to a Middle Eastern neighborhood in a music shop and talk to someone. It's kind of like yeah. So I feel like the internet's probably done that more than anything else. But at the same time, like more people hear about these different cultural things. I don't. I'm totally on board with what this person's saying. Like, I mean, I think it's a really good concern from a like sociological standpoint. But fortunately, I don't think that AI music is being used for anything other than fun right now. For the most part, like I think it's just being used for fun, or it's being used to like flood Spotify with a bunch of AI generated music in hopes to turn a profit on the investment. So I don't think that anybody's like being misled on their musical discovery, unfortunately. But I could be wrong, and I hope I'm right. But yeah, I mean that is concerning. That's something to study for sure. Maybe dystopian noise. Maybe quantum computers guessing the random patterns could decode the noise if it's digital. I mean, maybe quantum. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm not. I feel like the list of things for a quantum computer to accomplish is much more, has many more higher priority things than poisonifying, or than countering poisonify or something. Like I think by the time like quantum computing can solve a whole lot of more important problems than that. And when it does, these won't be problems that the average person has, because we will have no more scarcity of anything. But yeah, we unfortunately quantum computing can't seem to solve any problem. That's sort of the issue, isn't it? We can't even solve the problem. Like, we literally have qubits, or certain models of quantum computing, most of their qubits are being used to error correct other qubits. So we're just trying to figure out how to like solve any problem. The problem is like we can't solve a simple one, much less one like this. Just got to find a way to bait AI investment into useful problems. Yeah. Chris Johnson asks, did you investigate things like advanced noise removal tools? Some of these get rid of pretty oddly specific things. Just spitballing here. I mean, I'm very, very familiar with noise removal tools. Like, that's like, there's nothing in terms of like weird audio tools. Like, I don't think there is anything I'm more of an expert at. Like, I feel like that's my number one thing, because I'm a musician, because I'm an experimental musician, right? That's like been the fascination since before I was using computers to make music. So yeah, I mean, there's RX, there's like forensic audio tools to remove noise. There's all sorts of things you could use. I mean, the thing is I could go through, like, if you gave me a data set to train that had adversarial noise, and I was able to identify that adversarial noise, which is another issue, right? Because like we talked about in here, you don't know. Can you find my adversarial noise here now, later in the stream? Can you find where I put it? Do you remember? Because now, at this point, I can't go through any of my files that that are poisonified or that have Harmony Cloak. I can't go through any of them and then tell you where the adversarial noise is. I have no idea. Like, it was AI that made it. And so, therefore, you just kind of have to brute force it. You can't be like, well, get this part out and get this part out and get this part. Even if you could, you would have to pay a human to do that, or you would have to train an entirely new AI model that would be very expensive and, again, more resourceful. So you would still have to kind of brute force it and bore the entire thing, resharpen it, like I showed earlier in the stream, and then you would end up with like pukey sounding audio. But more importantly, the point is not to make it. It's not something that I think is going to be like undefeatable or perfect or even close to that. But the goal is to just make it easier from an economic business standpoint. Just make it easier to cut artists in on the process of training an AI model. Just make it easier rather than doing all this shit, rather than figuring out this gigantic problem that has now been potentially handed to people, if that potentially handed to AI companies, if all music magically started getting encoded with Poisonify. Rather than doing that, just talk to the artist and cut them in. It's that simple. You get better data that way. You get uncompressed master audio. If artists are cut in, they'll send you their stems. Your models will get so much better overnight. It'll be incredibly inexpensive in comparison to just continuing to train on recycled data, which is what we're doing now. And now, I mean, they're running into issues as well with like, now that Spotify is being filled with fucking AI music, now a lot of these AI music sites are now scraping the AI music. and guess what? It gets less efficient each time. So and a lot of people are complaining that Suno is, I mean, it's funny because I've been on Reddit, actually. I saw a thing of somebody saying that Suno has lost quality in the last update and saying that maybe it's my fault. Maybe I had been poisonifying music before months ago, which is not the case. But the fact that people hear it losing quality kind of tells you that just improve the training data. And by doing that, you just have to invest in artists instead of compute. Zenadine, you don't need to remove adversarial noise. You only need to change it enough. Layer a bit of noise and use noise. Add up, it stops working. Yeah, it might sometimes. Who knows? Hey, Ben, the Australian government uses your voice as an identifying method. Is that fucking stupid? Yes. Yeah, that is. That is dumb. My bank tried doing that, and they gave me the option, and I opted out. I said, nope, I will use my PIN instead. Literally my PIN, my 4-digit PIN isn't, well, I think it's more than that now, but yeah, that's more secure than an AI voicing. Also, England now, Discord in England is requiring age verification via facial scanning. It's just like, what are you doing? I mean, the conspiratorial part of me just says oh, okay, so you just need data. You just need facial scanning data. A lot of times when I think about that stuff, yeah, I was just reading about that today, where Discord in some countries is requiring that. And yeah, I mean, when I think about that, it's just oh, okay, so you have all these users, you have all their behavior on Discord, you know what games they're playing, you know what third-party things they're using, you know what they're clicking on, but you don't know their race or ethnicity or gender or age. And now you found the perfect security measure to protect them, to figure all those things out and complete the entire loop, so your data is more valuable. AI training on AI-generated content has been predicted to poison itself and the internet for a little while now. Yeah. Dystopian Noise as well. Hundreds of musicians, parents using Suno for creating bad music to tell their kids they made great music also doesn't help it getting confused, I suppose. That is true. Yeah, I'm going to see if I got any more questions here that I missed. I feel like a lot of them were just sort of the same. I'm sure I missed some, like the 50 people asking who I am. I'm not answering that one. Ooh, this is a good one. Do you think we will see AI agents being set up as art studios with AI art directors and AI artists churning out artwork like a factory farm? Could this be done ethically by artists themselves? No. I mean, I don't see an AI art studio with AI art directors and AI artists. I feel like all of that would be one entity in this situation, but no, I'm not a big believer in AI agents yet. I keep reading about them, but like in practice, I've not really been amazed so far from any of the demos I've seen. I haven't really tried myself. Although now, like Windows Copilot has one that can actually like open up browser windows and make you reservations and stuff. Apparently. How much for the Alexa jammer? Can it be an app? Just take my money already. Yeah, not for sale just yet, but I would like it to be. Or I would rather just do a DIY. And there are already some like microphone jammer things. This one works a little better than, but yeah, I mean, it could be a DIY thing. I would rather it be. I have no interest in like marketing it or making money off of that. Okay. Yeah, auto hotkey. Right. Yeah, I was thinking that too. I was like, so a macro, a really expensive macro? I did not hear about Clem Burke dying, unfortunately. Well, unfortunately, he died. Doesn't matter if I heard about it. Hey, Ben, if Poisonify becomes effective, do you think you might be litigated before AI companies like Suno adopt ethical training? I hope Poisonify makes a dent towards paying artists more fairly. We're prepared for it. Like, you know, that's the reason why I'm doing this with Topset Labs, and that's a reason I didn't just like raw dog it and put it on the internet. That's why, you know, why I'm doing it through a distributor who understands what I'm doing, Symphonic, and yeah, and I mean I've met with 2 different attorneys about it. All I'm not sure when it will update, but like all of my music will have a note, a liner note somewhere, that, you know, depending on the streaming service and whatnot, that gives a warning that, you know, this may be encoded with something that uses protection against model training. So like, hopefully, if and when that lawsuit happens or that legal threat happens, a judge can say, well, why are you training stuff without even so much as looking at the artwork or looking at the notes? Like, you're just adding it in mass. Like, why don't you? Yeah, and I feel like that's about as good protection as I could have. I also have legal insurance, but I don't know if it's going to cover that in particular. But yeah. A lot of crazy. A lot of crazy questions on Y Combinator. Also encouraging. There's a lot of encouragement too, which is nice. It's always nice to be encouraged. But yeah, another thing that I've seen a bit from like the pro AI side, from people who are kind of like militantly pro AI stuff, which is a weird take to have. I think it's weird to be on either side. I mean, I even felt the same way about blockchain. It's like you could hate scamming assholes and still think that something is potentially valuable. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are like calling it a grift, which is like funny because I feel like if something's a grift, you have to like give me money or like give me intellectual property or give me rights or give me data. You have to do something. I'm not asking anybody for anything. Yeah. So I mean, it's you're welcome to point out how it's a grift, but I'm not really gaining anything off of it, other than self gratification, and exploring like really what it is. Like I think when I think about the meaning of all of this, one of the really important things, we're getting like a lot of people are getting caught on the details of what if this happens, what if this happens, what if this happens, how will it work then? And like really the number one thing I'm thinking is like I just don't want musicians to feel the way that I feel. And I'm sure a lot do, but I don't want them to. Like I don't want people to feel like they're being taken advantage of by releasing music or by participating in the music economy. And there's nothing wrong with feeling that way. Like, I mean, it's legitimate. That's how I feel. Like, it's very legitimate. But when you do that, you stop sharing ideas, and that's where technology and culture end, right? Is when like you've been so abused that you stop sharing your ideas and art with the world. And like this is like, even if this is an arms race, an inefficient arms race, it's something. It's something to build on top of. So whatever, if somebody else makes one that's even better, more power to them. I hope they do. That'd be great. It's not about like me or my channel or Voice Swap or Topset Labs or any of that. It's about for me personally, it's just I want to feel safe releasing music. I want to feel at least a little safe releasing music. I want to feel like I'm pushing back when I release music, and that will make me release more music. And I will release an album soon, and I will release more shit after that. And I will, as long as this level of hope, I don't even know what dog that is. As long as there's a level of hope, then you know, I'll be inspired to release music, not just make it and hoard it. And I hope that other people do the same. And I think it gets a lot more important than music. I think like AI, like a lot of people are threatened by generative AI. Authors, people who write scientific papers are worried about it. People who, you know, like all over the space, anywhere where somebody's creating, they're worried about generative AI. I don't even know if it's worried as much as just sort of like morale is low. And so whatever we have that can like raise morale, I think is a good thing. And whatever, I mean, God, even if it doesn't work, I feel like having something like Poisonify deployed in mass, like 20% of the music that comes out in the next year has Poisonify, which it won't, but let's say it did. Like, I feel like just the cultural effect of that will be better for AI than Poisonify than would be bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, it would make it wouldn't have diminished returns because more people would be releasing music to push back. Therefore, there'd just be more happening, meaning that there'd be more new data for AI to at least consider if it ever updates its architecture. So it's like, I don't know. So anyway, I just feel like I'd like the tap to be turned up on releasing music and releasing ideas and writing papers and writing books, because I feel like it's been kind of turned down lately. That's all. So reading these comments. Well, thank you. I appreciate the kind words, everybody. And yeah, and I did this stream mostly just to answer difficult questions. It probably seemed a lot of really long, meandering answers that probably didn't make sense, but I wanted to answer them in person. Like, I wanted to, yeah, I guess like I don't want to come off like I'm introducing a product or something. Like I'm like, I have this thing, you buy it and subscribe to it or pay for it. That's not what's happening. Like it's definitely a movement, and it's definitely one that I think once made more efficiently, then it can scale, you know, and that's when we can build a team of either depending, I don't know how it's going to work money wise, but I don't know if it's going to be employees or volunteers, or if part of it's going to be open source or what it is, but like, I do think that it's a movement, and I'm happy about that. And ultimately the goal of the movement, again, is to increase morale, but more so just to make generative AI work with artists. That's it. That's all we want. Just work with us. Work with us when using our content. Work with us when deploying, when using our ideas to make yourself money. Just cut us in. Let us help give you better data to create a better product. That's it. Am I going to invite Aphex Twin to stream? No, because he would say no. Yeah, Richard's very private. I don't speak to him that often. I'm not like we're not besties or anything, but I like him. He's great. He's a brilliant, wonderful, hilarious person. But he's very reclusive, as I'm sure you know. I don't think he would do a stream. I would love it though. Can I text him? Yeah, I can. Although he's definitely sleeping because it's 9:15 Eastern. I think millions of people empowered to make art using AI worth thousands of artists releasing less in fear of being trained on. And I don't understand Zenodine. I don't understand. Here's what I don't get. You like I'm trying to like explain this in a way that again doesn't sound combative. Like this is all like once you train something and then use it to make something new, right? It's almost as if you like went to someone's garbage and took an empty can of soda out, and then recycled it and made a new can, and then you took out some more, and then and then eventually you got all the cans in the community, and you just keep recycling them to make new cans out of to drink out of. How long do you think it would take before it couldn't hold soda anymore in the cans? Like how long do you think it, like the because entropy is real. It exists everywhere, right? And so and entropy is very real in data science. It's very real in machine learning. So like how long do you think it will take that cycle to go if everybody is using AI to generate art or to create art? Like you can be creative with AI, sure. But if everybody's using it, especially in the ways where most people are using it now, like text prompting and stuff like that, if everybody's using that, and then the next cycle, it gets recycled back into that model over and over again, it's not going to improve. Like that is the second law of thermodynamics. Like it's never going to improve if you do that. So even if you're an AI art enthusiast or evangelist, you have to understand that like humans are still required to improve models, period. Like there's no way around it because there is no consciousness inside the AI model, no matter how smart it is in this, where we are in this date and time or, you know, in our lifetimes, no matter how smart it is, it's always going to suffer from ideological entropy as it gets recycled in that system. I mean, that's why your CPU cooler in your computer needs more fluid every now and then, needs more distilled water. Like it runs out. I don't know how else to explain it. I'm not talking about pure AI content. You can modify AI outputs and use primitive handcrafted art and refine it with AI. Yeah, I mean, sure you could, but like, you know what I'm saying? It's like if you had a bunch of artists sampling, and that's all they did. If you just had a bunch of Jay Dillas, except minus the drum playing and the guest rapping, just working in a cycle together, you would end up just having a bunch of vinyl crackles within 100 years, I guess. But that doesn't mean anything. Jay Dill is still brilliant, and it doesn't mean that like all AI art is bad. It just means that humans are also a neural network, but it doesn't suffer from information entropy. So AI won't necessarily do either. I mean, I don't know if you're a developer. Like, if you are, if you are a developer, then check this out. If I could load it. Literally Google AI. So I know my screen's not shared right now. I mean, the base fundamental of training AI is this. literally classification loss, localization loss, objectness loss, total loss, and clone loss, and more. I mean, that you're basically, the way that AI is, the way it's monitored for how good it is just by how fast or slow the loss is happening, or entropy rather. And so, like, even if you do have new data being input into this, it's still almost always going to be a net loss. It's like, I don't know if I want to break into math on a stream. It might be embarrassing, but like, yeah, I mean, that's the foundation of it. Like, you have to have more than 50% new input for things to improve, and even then it'll improve so slow that it probably won't make a difference, and it won't actually take off anywhere. So it's like, yeah, and I don't know how else to explain it. But what Poisonify does, and what Harmony Cloak does, is it increases the loss. And that's the only way. That's the only way to really look at it. Anyway, well, I'm going to start doing some space imaging. So maybe I'll even come back and do a stream, or maybe I'll do it on the Discord or something. That'd be fun. That way I don't have to like talk. I could just sort of show it in a side window. But yeah, thanks for joining, everybody. I'm sorry if I missed anybody's question. Oh, hey, Ben, a serious question. Have you considered making a tour or playing some gigs again? I just met with a booking agency 2 weeks ago. A big one. And while they didn't talk me into touring or signing, they did make it a lot more palatable with my schedule and everything. So maybe, yeah, it'd be fun. I would like to play some seated theaters, to play quiet and loud. It's, you know, kind of go all over my range. That would be really nice. I would love that. I appreciate it. And thank you for all the kind words here. And thanks for listening to me go off on a bunch of tangents. And yeah, it's funny to go right from that to deep space imaging, which is like, if you think fucking adversarial noise is complicated, oh my goodness. Or maybe I'm just dumb. It's possible I'm dumb. Deep space imaging is the first video where I've had to hire other experts to help me understand what's happening, because it's bad. Anyway, but yeah, I appreciate all the kind words. If you asked a question that I missed, I apologize. Tag me somewhere and I'll see it and answer it. I didn't do it intentionally. It's just, the problem is that if I have 100 questions and I take 25 minutes per answer, we'll be here for 40 hours. All right, thanks, and hope everybody is good. And I don't know, if I actually get the telescope up and locked onto, let me show you what I wanted. Maybe before I sign off here, I'll show you what I'm, this is what I'm trying to get tonight. It's going to be rough. NGC4438. We're going to try. It's pretty far out there. Oof. Yeah. But we'll see. It should be like straight up tonight. That's why I'm picking things that are straight up, because I don't have the most the biggest view in my yard. But I do have yeah, but I can also go to a cemetery nearby if I need to get further out. But that's my thing tonight. All right. Thanks for watching, and maybe I'll name it. Let's name it. We'll have the Discord community name it. If we actually find it and image it, we'll call it something. We get to name a galaxy tonight because it doesn't have an official name. Actually, that's kind of a legit thing I just said. We could do that. Like, literally. Pretty rad. That's how many fucking galaxies are in space, y'all. I'm like Carl Sagan, like, after, like, I don't know, after getting some brain damage. All right. See y'all later. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.